seconds, there will be a talk about planning, organizing, and implementing co-curriculum activities. All players should be ready as they focus throughout the session. Those who fail to do this task will be eliminated. Introducing our past winners as speakers for today: Khairunisa Ashikin, Anis Shakira, Aina Alia, Aina Salsabila, and Akalini. The talk will start now.
This is the content of our today's presentation, which is planning school calendar, school scenario, type of school, budget, manpower, postmortem, and we will discuss more about organizing, implementing, and lastly, conclusion. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning I bid to our honorable lecturer Sir Azmi and to all my fellow friends. Today we will present you about planning, organizing and implementing co-curriculum activities. Co-curriculum is an activity in a group and occur outside of the classroom period. The activities are systematically designed in order to give students opportunity to enhance practice values and skills been learned in classroom. Do you still remember how many components that co-curriculum have? If you happen to forget it, please rewatch previous videos from previous presenters. So, what is meant by planning? Planning means the process of thinking regarding the activities required to achieve a desired goal. What about organizing? Organizing means the establishment of effective authority relationships among selected work, persons and workplaces in order for the group to work together efficiently. Meanwhile, for implementing, it means the realization of an application or execution of a plan. So, in order to have successful co-curriculum in a school, planning activities are crucial. In planning co-curriculum activity, there are several steps that we need to follow. The first one is build the management organization or executive committee. Next, build the organizing committee. And then prepare the documents related to task lists and responsibilities. After that, you need to prepare documents related to management instruction or admin. The next step is selecting, organizing and fixing the programs. Then, identifying and fixing the facilities needed and their resources. And then, you have to identify the target participation and skills needed. And then planning workflow implementation, including planning, meetings, and lastly, you need to prepare or getting implementation budget. There are 7 important factors that we need to consider before deciding on what activities should be included in our school co-curriculum. The 7 factors are objective, school calendar, school scenario, type of school, budget, manpower, and postmortem. So the first one is we need to be clear of what is aim and objective before setting up an activity. Without a clear objective and aim, the activity that we are about to build could bring negative feedback at the end of the day. Next, we also need to consider the availability of slot in school calendar. Planning annual extracurricular activities without referring to school calendar is impossible. This is because we need to find available time and day to fill in the activity that we are about to build. Besides, time allocation for the activity is very important in motivating the students and also teachers to participate in the activities. For example, during examination season, like final exam, co-curriculum should not be the main concern. Focusing on both academic and co-curriculum at the same time will definitely exhaust both teacher and students. Thus, the required time spent on co-curriculum should be completed before the examination season. However, there are some consequences that cannot be avoided even though the time allocation did not clash with another school activities. As we all know, co-curriculum activities usually will be held in the evening after the classroom session. According to Susie Zhou in her report, students are facing challenges due to tough transportation available within the area to attend core curriculum as it was held in the evening. Besides, for some students, extra tuition that takes place on the same time as core curriculum are contributing to the challenges of attending core curriculum activities at school. Despite of all the challenges that occur from the core curriculum held in the evening, school management are prohibited to hold their activities on Saturday as to follow the instruction from Ministry of Education. Hence, the time allocation remains in the evening. This is the example of school calendar that I had found on the internet. You can take a proper look at it later in the document. The third important factor is school scenario. The school scenarios include school environment, facilities, infrastructure, and appliances. All of these factors need to satisfy the core curriculum activities that are going to be held. For example, a field to hold sports, a proper marching field for uniform bodies, and enough classes to help societies. Each of uniform bodies, sports, and societies have various needs and equipment in order for the activity to run smoothly. For instance, a school that has computer club at least need to have enough computers for each of the club members. Hence, before deciding to build a co-curriculum activity, we need to pay extra attention to all these school scenarios to ensure the co-curriculum activities can be done successfully. According to a research, the lack of facilities such as no proper field available, broken and old equipments affect teachers and students' motivation to apply the theory they had learned through co-curriculum activities. This is because when there are no suitable place and safe equipments to be used, the risk of getting injured is higher. Thus, most teachers decided to not use the facilities provided. In addition, there are many cases that teachers need to come up with initiative to play handball in futsal court due to no field available for handball specifically. This one field need to be shared by two sports clubs, which is futsal club and handball club. If this condition continues for a long time, both teachers and students will lose interest to participate in the co-curriculum activity. Besides, the place setting for the meeting also affects the students' motivation in attending co-curriculum. Imagine having a small class with less chairs for a club meeting that consists of many members. Students need to find chairs or even need to share the chairs with their friends. This condition would definitely disturb the learning process and kill the eagerness of the students to do the activity. Thus, ensuring the availability of school facilities and enough good equipment or appliances should be taken seriously before planning co-curriculum activities.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. I am Anis Shakira. I will be presenting on the type of school and also budget for planning co-curriculum activities. Okay, first, let's see the type of school. Okay, so in Malaysia, there are totals of four types of school, which are government school system, private school system, the vernacular school system, and the last one is international school system. Okay, first let's see the government school system. Okay, according to Malaysia Education Destination, there are more than 10,000 government schools strategically dispersed throughout Malaysia. Okay, these schools are government funded and parents are only required to pay minimal fees, ensuring that each and every Malaysian child will have access to education at the primary and secondary school levels. Typically, these schools have high student-teacher ratios, a narrow range of curricular activities, and limited facilities. Okay, for example of government schools are sports schools, religious schools, daily schools, and many more. The next one is private schools. Instead of sending their children to government schools, parents have option to send their children to private schools that offer Malaysian curriculum. The major difference between government and private schools is that the latter typically provide better facilities and more varied extracurricular activities. For parents, however, these advantages come at a price. Private schools charge higher tuition fees as well as fees for extracurricular activities. The next one we have is vernacular schools. In Malaysia, there are two types of vernacular schools, Chinese and Tamil schools that use Mandarin and Tamil as their main medium of instruction respectively, with Bahasa Malaysia in English taught as compulsory subjects. Parents who send their children to these schools want them to learn their mother tongue. Chinese vernacular schools are known for being very strict with students and are noted for giving students excessive amount of homework. Students are also required to take part in many extracurricular activities after school hours during the week and over the weekend. As places are limited, especially in secondary schools, students have to compete with each other. Okay, the last one is international school. Okay, international schools in Malaysia are privately owned and in the early days were primarily for children of expatriates working in the country. However, since the restriction for Malaysians studying in these schools were removed in 2012, there has been an increase in the number of local students in these schools. The increasing demand has resulted in more schools being established over the past few years. In addition to to extracurricular options, international schools has lower student-teacher ratios, excellent facility, well-qualified educators, as well as a greater focus on non-academic areas of learning. Next, let's move on to the planning budget for co-curricular activities. Okay, so currently the ministry allocated 3,000 ringgit Malaysia per year for co-curricular activities for secondary schools, 1,700 for grade A primary schools, and 750 ringgit for other types of schools. Okay, so all the financial supports for co-curricular activities including Bantuan Co-curriculum Sekolah BKKS, Bantuan Sukan Sekolah BSS, and Bayaran Bantuan Tambahan Persekolahan BBTP from Ministry of Education will be distributed directly to KWK account kumpulan 1 of the school for the use of implementation co-curricular activities throughout the year. Okay, the first financial support is Bantuan Co-curriculum Sekolah BKK. It is a yearly financial allocation for school prepared to cover the expenses of students' co-curriculum involvement. The use of the allocation financial allowed for BKK including activity involve uniform body force, club and associations, and activities like camping, seminar, and etc. Until 2010, the amount of BKK for primary school are estimated around 10 ringgit per student and around 12 ringgit per students for secondary school. However, starting for 2011, the Ministry of Education have introduced one student, one sports or satu murid, satu sukan. The allocation of budget for sports and activities was separated from BKK to BSS, Bantuan Sukan Sekolah. In the table, listed the amount of BKK that's supposed to be allocated to the students of primary school. Okay. For schools that have 1 to 50 students, 400 ringgit Malaysian will be allocated for schools, and so on. For 50 to 100 students, RM80 will be allocated per schools. For 101 to 150 students, RM 1,200 ringgit will be allocated per schools, and for 151 and above, RM 8 ringgit will be allocated per students. Okay, the next financial support is BSS, Bantuan Sukan Sekolah, introduced in 2011 with the introduction of Satu Murid Satu Sukan. The financial support is aimed to be used in annual sports tournament, track and field events, sport carnival at schools, and etc. Okay, the distribution of the money are listed in the table for primary school students. For school that have 1 to 50 students, 200 ringgit Malaysia will be allocated per schools. For 21 to 100, RM 400 per schools. For 101 to 150, RM 500 will be allocated for schools and so on. Next, we have Bayaran Tambahan Persekolahan (BBTP). Okay, starting from 2012, the government has agreed to abolish BTP that has been put on parents as they are responsible to pay for early school fee. This is one of government initiative as to improve school well-being. The table listed the amount financial support that will be received by the students. The average total financial budget for BTTP is 24 ringgit 50 cent. Next, the schools also get financial support from students' fee enrollment in the uniform and bodies, club and association, and annual sports fee. The estimated average of fees collected from students is usually 10 ringgit per student. Now, okay, let's take a look at the example of budget for planning the basis of co-curricular activities. First is the budget for participation in activities outside school. As example is the budget planning for organizing a camping. Okay, as you can see, the average budget needed to hold a camping is roughly 2,000 ringgit above. Depending on the number of participants, the revenue of camping, and the cost for the camping. However, if the camping were held at the school ground, the budget can be reduced more. Usually, the school will use the financial support from the government, as I mentioned before, to deduct the fee for the students. Besides that, they will also deduct the fee from the PIBG money collected annually at the school. Therefore, the estimated average budget for camping should be lower enough. Hence, the estimated per student needed to pay for a camping event is usually 20 ringgit something. Okay, the last one, we also have the budget for appreciation allocation budget. The table shows the example of budget planning for appreciation gift and medal for students in an event. Okay, so that's all for budgets and type of school for planning co-curricular activities. Let's move on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Noraina Alia and I will explain on manpower and postmortem in planning the co-curriculum activity. Let's see on manpower first. Manpower of an event is basically the show that goes on behind the curtain. In other words, it also can be referred to the people that involve in event through various roles such as the planner of the event, the cameraman, the sound unit, medical unit, and so on. Any shortage of a manpower are equal to the failure of an event. Why? Because the shortage of the manpower will lead to the mismanagement event. So, let's see how manpower play the role in planning the basic of co-curricular activities. Here's some example of manpower that are just to be included. The first one is medical unit. Medical unit is the crucial part of any event, especially for co-curricular day, which includes students as a participation. We as a teacher and as an event planner have to put student safety at first place before handle any activities. This is because it will minimize the emergency response time and improve event safety. It can make students feel safe as well as make the event seem reputable and trustworthy as event planner put the safety in first place. Attendants can breathe easy when they know that their safety comes first. Next is MC. What is MC? MC is the host and facilitator of the event. MC will deliver the important detail on how to make the most out of the event. For example, such as participating in the contest, to inform the student where the food, as well as deliver the information to the participants. MC manage the energy of the crowd, timing, and also the flow of the program. MCs command the stage with confidence and able to gain the trust of the audience. MC is the key to make sure the event look alive. Manpower also have to handle the sound unit for any co-curriculum activities. It is important to create the mood and set the aura of the audience. According to a study, high-tempo music releases the adrenaline and low tempo of music can make people feel more relaxed. As you can see, for any co-curriculum activity which include outdoor activities such as sport, the MC will play the high tempo of music as it can increase the spirit and the motivation of the player, and low tempo of music normally took place when the activity include the indoor curriculum activities such as choral speaking and debate session, as it can make the participant feel more relaxed. Audio consoles give noises to make the different tempo and establish a mellifluent atmosphere. Besides, sound unit also important to make sure the MC able to make the announcement to the participant to handle the event. And last example of manpower is photographer. Cameraman or photographer is important to make the event look more credibility. It's able to collect the image to put in school history or school magazine. It can capture the key moment of the event. When we as event planner hire a pro event photographer, they can capture human emotion, expression, atmosphere and more in their photo. They're able to tell visual story with their skill and experience. So now, let's move to postmortem. What is postmortem? Postmortem is the meeting that held at the end of the project. The goal of postmortem meeting of organizing the curriculum activity is to look at the project or the work from the start in order to identify what things that went right and what things that can be improved for the next event. In other words, it refers to a process that usually been conducted at the conclusion of the project to determine which part of the activity was successful or unsuccessful. Project postmortem are intended to inform process improvement, mitigate future risks, and also promote interactive best practice. By the end of the meeting, the teacher will identify what the best practice and the opportunity to make some improvement in upcoming days. The postmortem meeting also needed to evaluate the team members of event planner, either all the members give the full cooperation during the event or not. During the session, it is important to have an open question at the end where the team member can leave any opinion in their own words, either positive or negative words. It is important to give everyone the space to document the experience in order to gain insightful feedback so that the team members feel that their voice been heard. As you can see here, this is the important part of postmortem analysis. The first one is the team feedback. In this session, the team member have to give their own feedback for the event, either a good one or vice versa. The second one is what we have done to get the result. If the result is good and worthy, we have to keep the momentum for the next event. And the last one is the action step that we committing to, which include the improvement that should be done.
Hi, I'm Aina Sasabila. So today I will tell you about organizing the co-curricular activities in school. Let's get started! So today I will be focusing on 4 particular key points. The first and the second one are the principle and the role of teacher in organizing the co-curriculum activities in school, and the third and fourth one are the difficulties in organizing the co-curriculum activities in school and the suggestion on how to overcome it. Let's move on to the first one, which is the principle of organizing the co-curriculum activities in school. In order to come up with an organization, we should do a proper planning. Same goes to the organizing the co-curriculum activities in school. So, as you can see, these are the principle of organizing the co-curriculum activities in school. The first one, the school should have only those activities for which there are possibilities of making them success. This means you should keep the students' interests and needs in mind before planning any co-curriculum activity. Maximum number of activities of varied nature should be planned, satisfying the diverse needs of large number of students. If you come up with a club, you need to make it something that can attract students' attention. If not, the club will not active and not success. It's such a waste, right? The next principle is too many activities should not be introduced at a time. The activity plan should be planned well. It is true that the co-curriculum activities is not for leisure, but the student need to balance the input taken from the co-curriculum activities and from inside the classroom. Furthermore, the co-curriculum activities should be done within the school times. Teacher should try to plan the co-curriculum activities within the school hours, enabling maximum participation of students. Also, all the interested students should be allowed to participate to the extent they are capable of participating, achieving success and deriving satisfaction. The last principle of organizing the co-curriculum activities in schools is there should be a proper place to conduct the activity so it will increase the student participating. The idea of democratic atmosphere should be ensured so that each and every student has the opportunity to participate without any fear of co-curriculum act.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Akadim Thomas Fazil. I will present to you the last point for this presentation, which is the implementation of core curriculum activities. Okay, implementation. What is implementation? Implementation is the process that turns strategies and plans into actions in order to accomplish strategy objectives and goals. In core curricular activities, by implementing core curricular activities, we will help to inculcate civic and democratic values by participating in self-government and organizing different festivals and ceremonies. Core curricular activity is also an effective platform to make absorb values like social, aesthetic, cultural, recreational, and disciplinary among students. The implementation of core curriculum activities can be divided into three phases, which are pre-implementation, execution, and post-implementation. Now, let's go to the first phase, which is pre-implementation. Pre-implementation is one of the essential phases for enabling successful implementation of every project in organization. The first step in pre-implementing of core curriculum activities is arranging and managing logistic related matters. The basic logistics such as transportation or supplies that are related to our own activities are needed before carry out the activity. The second one is managing matters related to manpower. Manpower such as MC or medical unit needed to sort out before we start the core curriculum activity. The third point is preparing basic necessities, tools and sources that is suitable with the activity and students. The fourth step is completing needed documents. Next, preparing an organization in charge to make sure the activity runs smoothly. Then we need to conducting meetings and discussions with all the party involved to know the flow of the activity and all matters regarding the activity. And the last one is managing matters related to participants' accommodation, safety and welfare. Okay, for the next phase is education phase. Education is the act of doing or performing something, especially in a planned way. The first step in education phase is registration of officers, trainers, and participants. All the parties involved in the activity that we will conduct need to register before the activity started to make sure none is left behind for safety purpose. The second one is conducting a briefing. Briefing is needed for students and also teachers to know the tentative of the activity. Next is carrying out every activity based on the tentative of the program. This is important to make sure the flow of the activities are in track to avoid inconvenient feelings for students and teachers. So during the education, we also need to monitor and assessing the implementation of the program. And the last one is evaluating students' performance by monitoring their progress while doing the activity. The last phase in implementing core curriculum activities is post-implementation. A post-implementation review is conducted after completing the project. These activities aim to evaluate whether project objectives were met, how effectively the project was run, lessons for the future, and the actions required to maximize the benefits from the project outputs. Okay, the first point in post-implementation of core curriculum activities is evaluation. Evaluation is needed to know how effective the activity for students and teachers. Next is reviewing inventories and sources to make sure all items are in good condition after the activity. Then preparing appreciation documents to related parties if there is another outsider parties involved, such as agencies, And the most important one is postmortem. Postmortem, as mentioned by Aina before, is needed to carry out every time after activity was conducted to determine which part of the events were successful or unsuccessful. And the last one is documentation for making a report. Before we proceed to implementing some co-curriculum activities, we must need good strategies to make sure the activities run smoothly. Here, I will tell you guys some of the implementation strategies. The first strategy is we need to decide on aims and objectives to be achieved. For conducting a co-curriculum activity, aims and objectives are a must to know what is the achievement that will be gained by students by the end of this activity. Secondly, we must arrange co-curriculum activities that are relevant to the stated objective. This is because we need to achieve the aim and objectives of our activity. Then, setting up specific activities that are suitable depending on the aim and objective. After that, we need to prepare manpower to make the activity more organized. The next one is preparing facilities to ensure the activity is carried out in a comfort and suitable place. Then we need to decide on the right time for carrying out an activity, whether it is on weekend or another suitable time. Next, we need to preparing a marking schemes for students' evaluation after the activity was conducted. And the last one is acknowledgement and appreciation. In conclusion, co-curricular activities are integral in ensuring the holistic development of the students. An excellent implementation of co-curricular activities is therefore vital to ensure that the students will be fully benefited from it. In doing so, an effective planning, organization, and the implementation process are necessary to ensure that the activity can be carried out as planned with clear objectives and tasks to be undertaken is clearly enunciated to everyone involved. That's all from our group. We will proceed with the discussion and quiz time in Google Meet after this. Thank you for your time and participation.